Please welcome the panel on the $700 billion opportunity, Women Investors Unlocking the Female Dollar, moderated by Managing Partner at Ingeborg Investments, Anna Mason.
Hello, everyone. I'm so thrilled to see we packed this house to talk about the power of investing in women. I'd like to start off by thanking Milken's MI Philanthropy and Inclusive Capitalism teams for bringing this incredible panel together. We're here today to talk about the power of investing in women, and I love that the session title set out for us itself is rooted in data. So we're gonna start there too. We're gonna start with the stats. By way of introduction, I'd love to ask all of my incredible and esteemed panelists to introduce themselves with something that I think was missing from each of our bios, which is a specific stat, and I know there are many, that quantifies the work you're leading today to invest in women. Tonya, let's start with you and go down the list.
Okay, great. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Tonya Allen, and I'm the president and CEO of the McKnight Foundation in Minneapolis. And we are a private foundation. Our corpus is about $3 billion, and we have made investments of approximately $500 million in women firms. So not always women-owned, but women-dominant places and positions, because we believe that we want women primarily focused in all of the leadership roles, including ownership. So, yeah. Hey, that's 500 million. I'd like to see it.
Yeah. Let's clap. We'll clap it out.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Harkless-Moore, Managing Director of Investments at Pivotal Ventures. We are a Melinda French Gates company that is built to expand equality and opportunity here in the United States, and specifically advance women's power and influence. And for us, that means putting women in positions to control more resources and capital, make decisions, and influences the policies that impact our communities, our homes, and our workplaces. So to Anna's great question, to start, a couple of stats about us. We invest in women-led funds and companies. And so far, we have backed fund managers, 20 firms, 31 funds that have cumulatively raised over $5 billion in assets.
Hi, everyone. I am Kwanzaa Jones, and I am the founder and also co-founder and CEO of the Kwanzaa Jones and Jose Feliciano Initiative. It's a family office, and to give a data point, when Erin talks about putting women in the hands, resources in women, I'm one of those women who has the hand in and is able to allocate. And in allocating some of this, and when you think of it from personal funds, essentially, it's my husband and I, and we've done about 200 million, a little bit more. And I say it this way, intentionally, but not exclusively in women founders. So that's two people who's doing all of that. And out of that, we do other things too, but out of that, it's about 1.2 billion in assets under management that the women who we fund, they also have that power now that they're able to allocate to others.
I'm Sally Krawcheck. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ellevest. I don't know how to do that. Can you hear me?
Kwanzaa.
Can you hear me?
Want to try this?
I can try that.
There we go.
It's always me. Okay. It's always me. All right, I'm just whatever. Anyway, I'm Sally Krawcheck. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ellevest, which is the wealth management and invest tech company focused on helping women build their wealth. Because nothing bad happens when women have more money. We were founded by, funded by, built by, built for, investing in, investing through women. And really the first company to look around and say, gee, women don't invest as much as men do. Maybe it's not that we're risk averse. Maybe it's not that we're not good at math. Maybe it's not that we don't want to. Maybe no one built something for us. We launched a handful of years ago and have just crossed $2.1 billion in assets under management.
I love you, Sally.
I love you too.
Sally and I grew up together, and she's taught me so much. I'm Linnea Roberts. I'm the founder and CEO of Gingerbread Capital. We do three things. We make direct investments into women-founded, co-founded companies. We're an LP in about 27 different funds, all led by women and a few men of color, our token men. And then we also really try to catalyze how do we get more people, more women investing, using their wealth for really, really good things, and especially investing in women. So I'd like everyone in this room to plan on opening an Ellevest account as my first homework assignment. We have over 70 direct portfolio companies, as I said, about 27 funds. We've put close to $100 million to work, and that's family office capital. And our funds represent over $3 billion in assets under management. And if I throw in Ellevest, that's $5.1 billion.
I love it. I love it. So as you can all hear, we've barely been at it for 5 minutes, and we've already quantified somewhere between $10 and $15 billion in impact towards investing in women, just with these 5 women across the stage. So we're going to stick on the data and stick on the stats in this first section of our discussion. Our panel title is the $700 billion opportunity: Women Investors Unlocking the Female Dollar. Sounds like a lot. But I'm going to go to one of my resident experts, my favorite resident expert on investing in women, Sally, who just told us a little bit about Ellevest, and give her the opportunity to tell us even more about the work that she's leading at Ellevest, and use that as an opportunity, Sally. Strikes me that 700 billion might be a little low. Let's reset this table and reset this conversation. What do you think the right number is when we're talking about the opportunity to invest in women?
700 billion, I believe they got it from an Oliver Wyman study. I believe the study says that if financial services companies served women to the same extent they serve men, then it's $700 billion in revenues that are available. I would throw that number aside, because what it says to me is that's about 2.5 additional trillion dollars in assets under management for women in my area of the business. The issue with that is that it's not taking into account another panel that was either earlier today or today, which talks about the great wealth transfer, where in that panel, they're talking about something like $80 trillion is going to be transferred from baby boomers onto their heirs. Now, some folks say it's not 80 trillion, it's 20 trillion, it's 30 trillion, whatever. It is a load of money that's going from one generation to another. And we talk a lot about that money going to the Gen Zs and the millennials. You know who it goes to first? The wife. Women live 6 to 8 years longer than men. Half of marriages end in divorce. So we're very much seeing this at Ellevest, where she gets the money before it goes to the kids. And what happens when she gets the money, which is great for all of us, is she becomes more confident. She is more likely to invest for impact. She is more likely to give away a larger portion of that wealth to nonprofits. She's more likely to donate to candidates who support her points of view. She's more likely, she spends it. The economy grows. And so we're starting to think at Ellevest a lot about the feminization of wealth. What happens when women step into this power and step into this money? And again, as I said before, we can't think of anything bad that happens, but that a lot of issues become better because of it. And you see, you sort of see these examples, right? You have Mackenzie Bezos, who's come into some money on divorce. Jeff is doing all kinds of things with his money that involve rockets and so on, and good stuff, but boy, she is giving that money away. You see Dr. Gottesman in New York, whose husband made $1 billion investing with Warren Buffett. He made the money. She's giving it so that medical students don't have to pay tuition. So this softening of the approach to wealth, this greater generosity, the ripple effect of this, yes, there are revenue opportunities that are here. They're really much more significant than $700 billion. But there are opportunities for our society as well, which I think are going to have tremendous ripple effects. Oh, and by the way, that's before we get to young people who are building wealth. Who here has a daughter? How amazing are these young women, right? These young women who are the majority of college graduates, the majority of graduate school graduates, are going to be making more money. So we've got the widows and the divorcees coming this way. We've got the young people coming this way.
and the whole thing is a net positive.
All right, so now we know that Milken needs to change this panel title when we do it again next year, and it's going to be a much bigger number. We're going to be able to talk even more about this impact. At Ingeborg, one of the things that we tend to focus on a lot is what we think about as the flywheel effect. When you invest in women, naturally you see in the data that women invest in each other more, and we've heard that in different ways already from the introductions of all of our panelists. Erin, I'm going to kick it back to you. Through your 8 years at Cambridge & Associates, 4 years now leading investments at Pivotal Ventures, I think it's safe to say you've evaluated hundreds, if not thousands, of managers, including hundreds of female managers. Talk to us about the data that you see in the venture industry in terms of track records of funds and of fund managers over time. So many of the managers who are considered emerging managers oftentimes tend to be women. So tell us about the data that you see. How are funds performing earlier versus later in their cycles?
Sure. So venture capital, really private markets, private equity and venture, but specifically venture, is the asset class with the widest dispersion in returns, right, between the worst performing manager and the best performing manager. And that puts a focus on great manager selection. You need to be able to identify that talent, and the performance in venture specifically also persists over time. So you tend to see fund managers that have done well continue to do that and exhibit those top tier returns. So a lot of people refer to venture as an asset class, but also an access class, right? If you can't get into those great managers, then some might say you should not even play the game. You shouldn't even allocate within venture. I think the other piece of the data, though, that's interesting is that emerging managers, which are typically defined as funds 1 to 3, so those early in the building of their firms, Cambridge Associates has data on this, PitchBook has data on this, that they consistently outperform vintage year over vintage year. The median IRR of those funds is higher than the funds raising 4 and beyond. So there's a great opportunity in investing in these funds. They're often smaller. Since 2018 or so, I saw some data recently that there are over 1,000 funds in venture capital that manage less than $300 million. So if someone is telling you you can't find emerging talent, you can't find women to invest in, we have over 200 funds just here that are US based, that are women owned and led in our pipeline at Pivotal Ventures. So that's not the issue. The performance can be wide, but it persists, and emerging managers outperform. So to me, that makes the case for why, as an allocator of capital, institutional LP should be looking to diverse managers, emerging managers, those first-time funds, and making them a core part of your venture allocation. That's really where a great opportunity lies. And I think I get a lot of excitement. It's hard work too, right? Like, you don't have reams of data, perhaps tons of performance history to go off of. But one thing that we try to do at Pivotal with our process is be more inclusive, take bias out, and look at the totality of someone's track record, right? Like, what are they really bringing to the table, and how that will drive their differentiated thesis and their edge in building a sustainable firm. So I can give one example, so I think it's good to make this concrete. We've invested in a firm, Washington, D.C. based, called Construct Capital. Thank you. Led by 2 women, Dana Grayson, formerly a partner at NEA, Rachel Holt, who was one of the earliest employees at Uber, was there all the way through taking the company public. They've raised over $400 million in just the last 4 years alone. This firm was starting at the earliest days of the pandemic in 2020. And they're investing in foundational industries that are going to power, again, manufacturing, logistics, transportations, many of the things that we've underinvested in as a country looking ahead to the decades to come. And so, it's still early to assess and evaluate their performance, but I'm excited about the platform that they built. They're really building a firm. They're not just raising a fund. And we're starting to see that early traction in their performance, right? So I think if you tie that back to the opportunity, right, you need funds just like that one, like Construct, in your portfolio. And it's great to get them early and find them early.
I love it. I hope everyone's taking as many notes as I am. We have so many incredible data points and statistics coming out that I think will continue to root our conversation in the data behind the power of investing in women. I'm going to hit one more data point here. Linnea, let's go to you. You're one of the biggest champions I know of so many in terms of the power and the potential of women investing in each other. And what we love so much about this work is that we're all not just doing it because we feel good about it. There is tremendous data to support the business case for investing in women. Women as founders who are more efficient, who exit earlier. Before we transition out of this data section, help bring us home with some of the powerful data that you see and you track around the business case for investing in women.
That's great. Well, first of all, I love the question. I love to think about the arbitrage. So today, everyone is seeing the headline statistic that less than 3% or less than 2% of venture capital goes to women founders. That's very frustrating because it seems locked in stone. So we like to unpack it a little bit. So number one, this is long-term capital. You don't invest 1 year and get your payoff the next year. It's venture capital. It takes years. The average exit for an early stage company is, they used to say 8 years. I would say it's 10 plus. Kate from Maven, she's been in her business for 10 years and she's doing great. So it's going to take a while. The other thing I always used to get asked is, if you're only investing in women, aren't you afraid you're going to miss the next WeWork? Nope. Aren't you afraid you're going to miss the next Uber? Nope. Okay. Women are much more efficient with their capital. We are living this right now. We have 70 portfolio companies. Not all of them will survive. Some of them will do great. But we have had far less casualties than I think a lot of funds have. So I think it's just really, really amazing to see how women fight really, really hard for that opportunity. The other way we unpack that 3% is we look at what is trending over time. So we're also a big investor in co-founded companies, male-female partnerships. That number has ticked up to 17%, and I think most recently was sitting at 21% of venture capital was going to male-female co-led companies. So first of all, thank you to those men and women for that partnership. Thank you to the men in this room that partner with those women. And I think we just have to look a little bit further because the big stats get swamped by the mega rounds. When you are putting several $100 million into one deal that is late stage venture, the numbers are always going to be skewed towards those high volume deals. And so we're living it and we're loving it.
Thank you. I think all of us are in this room today because we share not only an interest in investing in more women, but also a commitment to action, which is what Milken is all about in general, of how do we actually go out and do this. So now that we've set the table, in some respects, reset the table around the data around this opportunity, I want to transition us into talking about frameworks for how we go about this work. And Tonya, let's start with you on the framework front. As I've been learning more about the work that you lead at the McKnight Foundation, I've been particularly inspired by the 4 points of leverage and the framework that the McKnight Foundation has built out around this. Can you tell us about these 4 points of leverage? What exactly are they, and why was that framework important for you all to establish?
Sure, I'm happy to. So, but before I begin, could somebody please get this guy over here on the phone? The reason why I'm actually doing that is because it's my understanding this is the first time this all-women's panel talking about investment at this conference, and we just need to be respectful, right? So thank you. I'm like, that's gracious. I was like, should I say something? Should I not? And then I had to just be like, yes, Tonya, you say something. Do it. I do that. So anyway, so let me just say this. So at the McKnight Foundation, and I didn't share this earlier, as a mission-based organization, we like to focus on 2 issues. We call them our headlines and our through lines. And it's basically climate action and racial equity. We believe that the highest expression of our mission is when we can bring those 2 together, when we can find the intersections of that work and be able to express that. And we believe that you can do that. Now, in order to do that work and to make that work durable and to make sure that it sticks, we also believe that you got to use power. Like, you have to fully lean into the power that you have. We know that there are rules to power, and we as an institution will lean into those rules. We also believe that you have to rewrite the rules. That also is an element of power. And so we spend a lot of time thinking about what does it take to rewrite the rules. So what I'm going to do is talk to you about two things. One is about how do you lean into the current power structure, and then how we think about rewriting the rules when it comes to our investment thesis. So the first is the 4 points of leverage for us is really simple. We have 4 roles as an institutional investor. First, we're a customer. Right? So we have customer power. We have opportunity to make choices. We have opportunity to send signals to the market about how we want to spend our money and what we expect when we spend our money. The second one is simply we're a shareholder. So if we're putting our resources into the market, we want to make sure that if you're holding our money, that we're going to express our values. We want you to express our values if you hold our money too. So we do vote our shares. We are active in companies if we think that they aren't doing the right things. We express our point of view when it comes to our resources and the people who hold our resources. And the third is obviously we deploy capital. So if we know that we're deploying that capital and that people are coming to us, they want these resources that we have, then we have an ability to influence those who are seeking our capital. So what does your talent pool look like? What does your ownership look like? How are you showing up to make changes? You don't have to be as diverse as you want to be at this moment, but what's your pipeline? How are you thinking about this? How are you thinking about diversity in terms of women, in terms of people of color? How does it help you think about how you get access to new and different managers or opportunities to make investment? We want to know. So we want to see how you express our values if you're going to hold our assets, if we're going to deploy them in you. And then the last thing is simply, we're a market actor. So we try to we signal the market. And the way that we signal the market is through multiple ways. One quick example is our work we were the largest foundation a couple of years ago to become a net zero endowment. And we did that intentionally because we wanted to signal the market. We wanted to tell them that this is important to us. We also wanted to signal other endowments to say to them that you too can do this. We know we've seen university endowments do it, but not many philanthropic organizations. And 2 years later, we've had larger foundations, multi-billion-dollar foundations who have also now shown up and said that we're doing this because McKnight has done it. It's in alignment with our values, and McKnight put out documents that basically said, this is how you go about it. This is what we're learning every single step of the way. Finally, I would just say related to that is making sure that we are, a lot of times people will say, well, you only have a certain amount of money. Like, your money isn't big enough to signal the full market. And I always say, that's not true. Like, if we all thought that way, we would never believe that our money could make any difference. And so what we are trying to do is push, shove, nudge, whatever it takes for the market to start to shift and get those signals so that they know and understand that there are a set of actors who believe that things need to change and show up differently inside of the marketplace. Now, when it comes to rewriting the rules, we at the McKnight Foundation, we have a strategy we call fairness and arbitrage strategy, which is basically saying that we're going to make sure that every time we make an investment, that it's going to be a fair process. And you might say, well, of course, isn't all investing fair? Of course not. Because if it was all fair, we wouldn't have less than 2% of investment going to women founders or less than 1% going to people of color founders. So we want to make sure that we are creating a fairness where every time we are looking at an asset class, and if there's a manager, we're looking for a manager, that we're going to have those different people show up. We're going to have diversity in that. And then we're going to select, of course, whoever the best manager is for our endowment, and that's going to give us the most alpha as we can get. But we're going to make sure that we're created a fairness standard inside of our endowment. And then the last part of that is obviously arbitrage. We know, based on just those statistics I just shared, that these are folks who are underrepresented. And we know that talent, they're giving me a hard time. We know that talent is distributed. Talent is not distributed equally. I mean, talent is distributed equally, but opportunity is not. So if that's the case, then we know that there are tons of talent, there's tons of opportunity that are out there that are undervalued, and we want to have access to that undervalued managers. We believe if we can get to those managers early enough, that it's going to bring alpha into our portfolio. So that's how we think about our investments and how we want to show up as an institution, executing our values alongside our money and making sure that our money goes to work for us, not just what we give away in our philanthropic capital and our grants, but how we manage that corpus is also important. And I'd like to say this, is if we don't do that as an institution, that everything we give away, we're beating that, with what we do in the market. And quite honestly, if we do that, then we shouldn't even get up and go to work every day, right? Like, we want to make sure everything is in alignment for the mission.
It's such an incredible and robust framework for how an organization can think about all the different ways that you show up and you represent as a stakeholder. Kwanzaa, I think as an individual, you are an institution that does that. Artist, philanthropist, investor. As I have been stalking you online, the list goes on. And I think what really has struck me is that within your own work, the way in which you show up, you have built frameworks for how you lead and how you invest. One that I was drawn to was where you talk about the 3 C's of your work: culture, community, and capital. Can you tell us more about that framework and why that's important to you?
Sure, absolutely. Hello, everyone. Kwanzaa Jones again. Happy to be here, and most importantly, happy that you all are here, because this is the point of opportunity. When you all are here and hearing all these things that we're sharing, you're able to then go have a domino effect in a positive way. And that's what I call power. When Tonya is talking about that power, and she used her voice and her power to say, hey, can you tell them to be quiet? For me, I've got a personal motto, and it's own your power, live your purpose, be of service. But power not as dominance over, power instead as a domino effect of possibilities. So thank you all for being here, and the dominoes that we're going to set forth and make happen. And that is culture changing for me. And it means when you talk about the 3 C's that I have and the intersection of culture, community, and capital, I'll start with the culture part, because I think it's one of the most important things. Culture to me is something that I feel is dynamic. It's not static. It's bringing you into every room that you're in. So today I have on these shells, and these are cowrie shells. Now, if you look it up on Wikipedia, shells were a form of currency. It's called shell currency. So historically, in my culture, African American culture and the African diaspora, these were used as a currency to trade. But even before that, 3,000 years ago in China, cowrie shells were used, and the symbol for the cowrie was there. So I bring that up to say, bringing you into every space, bringing your lived experience into every space. It's what Sally is doing when you're talking about, hey, women especially are able to make so many different decisions. It's by bringing you into that space and place. So that is culture. Capital, and I don't want to minimize this, and I don't want anyone to think I'm being flippant about this at all. But money can be the easy part. And if you think about capital only as money, the zeros that you have access to, the trailing zeros, that's easy, and that lets you off too easy, and it lets other people off too easy. If you think about capital as what you can do more, capital is the connectivity that can then create things. That is the community portion. by using capital, yes, the financial component, but as a way to have it as a bridge to the community part, the connectivity part, the connections part. That's absolutely critical. Because ultimately, the only way through this framework we're able to make change, and it's why I started with culture, because I think it's the most important one. And I'm going to give a little data and a little history at the same time, because I think it's important. 100 years ago, a little bit more than 100 years ago, 19th Amendment was passed. And what did that do? Enabled us, meaning all of us who are here on this panel, the ability to vote. That was just a little over 100 years. Fast forward 50 years after that, in the 70s. There were a lot of things that were happening and some pretty amazing things and necessary things. Two of those things I'm going to mention. One of them was in 73, women had the ability to make a choice for themselves if they wanted to end pregnancies. So reproductive rights and the power that women had in that. The other thing that happened in the 70s, 1974, so that was 50 years from us being able to vote, what happened? ECOA. And why I am using that acronym, and it's so important, is because of it being 50 years and what it meant. Equal Credit Opportunity Act. Mm-hmm. 50 years ago, women could not get a credit card in their name unless it was with a husband, a father, a brother. So think about that. You did not have the power to be able to control what you were going to spend without, no shade to you men and the guys and the fellas here, but we don't need you all to speak for us. We didn't need you all then to, and even now we don't. Instead, we need to co-create and collaborate. And that's why, again, I'm talking about culture as one of the, definitely it's the cornerstone of my framework of these 3 C's, because if you jump 50 years again from the 70s, what do we see happen? The rollback. Mm-hmm. The rollback. Mm-hmm. The things that we got 50 years ago, we don't have now. So think about what that means from a culture perspective, because I like to look at data and I like to look at trends. What is the next 50 years going to be? What's it going to be? I'll tell you why I'm encouraged, because when I look at Linnea and Sally and Aaron and Tonya and all of you all here. So Anna, thank you. I know you're moderating, but I'm including you with all of us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Really, this is the power that, not dominance, but domino in a positive way. This is the power that we have collectively to change the culture. And it leads me to one thing, and I say this often, it's a question and it's important. If you get what you want, will you be ready for what you have? I love that I see this. You all should look at each other, because if you were sitting from where we were sitting, there are a lot of heads saying yes. Again, if you get what you want, will you be ready for what you have? And I would argue, from a culture perspective, some of the things that we saw even 50 years ago, even 100 years ago, were we ready? Now, this may be a bit controversial. No, we weren't ready. You know why we weren't ready? We weren't ready because we did not understand. Let me be clear. That doesn't mean I don't think we should have had that. We should have. And we did, and we will continue to. I'm saying we weren't ready because we thought that once we got it, that was it. We were all set. We thought that, okay, we have these rights, we have these privileges, we have this ability, so we're good. So we didn't think about, oh, wait, but we've got to continue to do things to pour into each other, which is what all of you all represent. And we hope all of you all represent that too. We weren't ready because we did not answer the call of what would be required to keep us collectively powering the possibility of humanity. So that is underlying my 3 C's.
I'm so glad you have a mic so you can drop it. So, it's obviously we have We have a lot of really powerful data. We have a lot of really inspiring frameworks. I also think we can't have an honest and candid conversation about the power and the potential of investing in women if we don't also talk about some of the very real stigma that exists today. And Sally, I wanna go back to you. We're gonna hit a couple folks with this. Talk to us about what you have seen and experienced in the stigma. How should we think about the stigma versus the reality of women investing and how women invest?
Yeah. Well, today, little boys get messages wherever they look that they should grow up to be CEOs, that, as my friend Reshma Sojani says, they should be brave, that they should make money, that they should go for it. And little girls still today get messages to be careful, to be perfect, as Reshma says, to not fall from the top of the jungle gym. They get embarrassed when they don't do well. And so they're sort of contained. When they grow up, you've got male money media, CNBC, Bloomberg, Cranes, et cetera, that is all very positive, affirmative, and about abundance. It's about trading, it's about crypto, it's about the market opening, it's about how to make money. And for young women, in their media, it's about scarcity, and it's about shame, and it's patronizing. And it's things like financial planning doesn't have to be really, really hard. And it tells her that it's her fault if she doesn't have money. Don't buy the latte. Don't buy the pumpkin. I mean, pumpkin spice latte season is peak misogyny. Right? It's mocking women for their economic choices and making them feel shameful for it. Think about what we see in the media, when we were all coming of age. Carrie Bradshaw, so good at everything she did, so with it, but bought so many shoes she couldn't afford her apartment and couldn't actually do the math in order to figure it out. And so for men, money is strength and power and abundance. And for women, they get this media messages, and it's isolation and uncertainty. And she looks around and she says, you know what? I don't have as much money as the guys do. So therefore, it is that I'm a flibbergidget, or I'm not good with money, or I don't deserve money. Nowhere does it say it is literally not your fault, that you're making 80 cents to a white man's dollar and tens of cents less if you're a woman of color, that you have these pink taxes that you have to pay, that just for being a woman, your credit card is more expensive, that just for being a woman, you have more student loan debt, that you start off behind. And that's the reason for these differentials. But she doesn't see that, but she feels the blame of it. And so she contracts. At the same time, women who are seen to want money are portrayed as shrews and bitches. It's for a man to want money, that's something. For a woman to want money, it's greedy and it's grabby. And so Gloria Steinem, I think, has said, one of the tricks the patriarchy played on us is they made being bad with money cute and fun and flirty and attractive. And so even young women today, when you go to the finfluencers, the stay-at-home girlfriends, it's sort of cute and attractive. For that reason, we've masculinized wealth. When we've got to figure out how to feminize wealth as well. But women, don't ask for the raise, don't invest. I can't tell you how many women we hear from where they say, well, I want to invest, but I need to be perfect. I need to get an A. I need to figure it out. I don't yet know what a basis point is. I don't yet know what alpha is. And so while we talk about the male-female difference is she's risk averse, the real difference is she's been taught to be perfect. And so that he'll go to invest and he'll say, that word alpha, I don't know what it is, but I sort of can figure it out by context. Let me go ahead and invest. She'll say, I don't know what it is. It seems important. Let me leave. And when she leaves, and you know what's more interesting than figuring out what alpha is? Everything. And so she tends to not come back. And so she misses out, particularly in those younger years, on the power of compounding and from getting that money in early. And so what we're trying to do at Ellevest, if you follow us on Instagram or on social media, is really try to not talk at her, but talk with her, and try to be a place of education, but it's a place of fun and lightness and sort of going back and forth as opposed to pedantic education. But, again, where we missed it with the feminist movement in the 70s is there was no attention to building wealth. Because those women came from the left, that was
this capitalist thing, let's leave that aside, let's march. And men have been building relative wealth ever since, again, because of the power of compounding.
Yeah. I think unfortunately, because, the stigma manifests in so many ways, I think, those of us who invest in female fund managers see this showing up in really profound ways. Erin, you spoke earlier about trends and data that you've seen, from over a decade of evaluating and investing in fund managers. We were joking earlier in a not funny way. We have a shared mutual friend who's a co-founder of what is now an $8 billion venture fund, spinning out to launch her own multi-$100 million venture fund. And I said, oh, well, you should talk to XYZ folks who care a lot about emerging managers. And she said, I'm the co-founder of an $8 billion, am I an emerging manager? And I said, I hate to tell you, but you are going to be viewed that way in the market. And so, Erin, let's dive into this framework of emerging manager. Two-part question for you. One is, are we doing a disservice to all of these managers by using that terminology? What do you think about the terminology emerging manager? And if the data you shared earlier is so powerful, why aren't more allocators and more LPs putting more dollars into those early managers?
I do think the term is problematic, and the example you gave is one of many. We have backed women who have co-founded large firms, been investors in some of the biggest companies of the last decade, Facebook, you name it, have been operators themselves at huge businesses. And when they step out and raise their own firm, it's with a negative connotation, right? Of, well, you're new, right? You're emerging, you haven't arrived. And we're ignoring the totality of the track record that they've built over decades of experience. And so I think we need a new term. Heather Hartnett at Human Ventures wrote an interesting piece last year where she called, again, to kind of abolish this emerging manager category and called them alpha generators, so I like that. I have my own term I want us to pilot and try and use, and I think it's alpha builders, because we're trying to find the next, again, generation of talent that's going to build lasting intergenerational firms. That's the business that I think many of us on this stage are. And if we move away from some of those labels that can make it easy to dismiss, to think of them as too small, too new, too different, not worthy of a place in your portfolio as an institutional investor, you're clearly missing out. And the second part of your question on it, the why behind that, I think it's for a couple of reasons. One that I mentioned earlier around this persistence of performance, particularly in venture. It's very easy to just stick with what you know and what you're doing. And it's a little bit more work, frankly, to get out there and source this talent, have an open door, right? And be willing to take the time to meet with these fund managers, these alpha builders, and get to know them and their stories and their track record, because you have to work a little bit harder. We're underwriting a fund right now where we're already up to a dozen references, and we're probably going to do 5 or 7 more, right? Because we're trying to get a sense of what is the edge of this team and their thesis and how they're going to drive and deliver value for us as limited partners in their fund. And I think it's incentives as well. I mean, I have the privilege, Melinda Gates in setting up Pivotal has made this our mission to advance women's power and influence using all the tools in our toolbox, all the levers, philanthropy, policy and advocacy, and investing. Many of us on the stage, Linnea at Gingerbread, we have a mandate to do this. Tonya, as you said, you're activating your endowment for impact. And that's not necessarily the case at a lot of other institutions. The incentives are not aligned to take that risk and to do that work in backing some of these newer firms. So I think we need to interrogate that and think about why those of you that sit on boards and investment committees ask those questions of your teams and as you continue to contribute to those organizations. Because I think that's the unlock that'll take us to move past this emerging label really being a form of bias and a roadblock to getting more capital to women.
Yeah. I wish I were done talking about stigma, but I'm not yet, because it pervades. It's pervasive in a couple different ways. And Linnea, I'm gonna go to you next. One of the first deals I had the privilege to work with you and your team on, I'm still smarting that I didn't do it alongside you, but was into a med spa company that is just killing it. I'm smarting because now I'm like an active customer of a lot of med spas. So I understand the value prop. And I think what a lot of investors miss is just how big the business opportunity is to invest in companies that are not only built by women, and are not only built for women, and with women in mind at every step of the way. It's really a tremendous opportunity. Talk to us about an example from your portfolio, whether it's that one I missed out on or another that you think is a really powerful and tangible example for everyone of a business that builds with women in mind, and is proving that you can build a big business around women.
Well, it's hard to pick. So that company is a fabulous med spa called Skin Spirit, started by a woman who was approaching middle age and decided she wanted to look better, and she knew a great dermatologist. And now they have probably close to 50 locations. They just did a growth deal, and I helped Lynn syndicate a group of women investors. So if you want phone calls from me about deals to invest in, just let me know, because I'm always reaching out and trying to find more women investors. I had a hard time picking from our portfolio because even our companies that don't look like they were built to help women. One, they have a female founder. Two, they tend to have predominantly female management teams, and it's just the pay it forward. But I'm going to pick one of my very, very first investments, which is a company called Incredible Health. How many of you know a nurse? So my best friend from college as a nurse, and so I learned about the nursing shortage, and this terrific woman, Iman Ubadzine, who is a doctor from Kenya, sat across the table from me with a laptop, and she talked about how hospitals hire anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 nurses a year, and most of the applications they get don't fit the profile of what they're looking for. So she uses artificial intelligence and reverse engineers it, and she now has, I would say, close to 25% of nurses on her platform. So hospitals apply to her nurses for their jobs. It's an amazing societal benefit. Now, happens to be most nurses, not all nurses, are women, and women can go to work more efficiently. And what a great way to, one, see a problem, find a solution, capitalize on that solution, and she is one of the most heads down, rock solid CEOs that I have ever met. And she asks for help. She knows her limitations. Her company is valued at well over $1 billion. And when I sat across the table from her, it was her and a co-founder. It was two people and a laptop. And it's just incredibly gratifying. So I'm going to just throw a few more stats, and some of these Sally has trained me in. Women are 51% of the population. Women make 85% of our household spending decisions. Women make 90% of healthcare decisions and allocate those dollars. Women are the best problem solvers, and boy, there's a lot of problems to solve. So we better throw some money at them.
Yeah. I think that example with Incredible is such an important reminder of what is possible once more female founders get funded. I think we all
We also have a great mac and cheese company. Also good for women.
Also a customer. Kwanzaa, as I was stalking you on the internet to make sure I was asking all the right questions for everyone, I went deep in some of your podcasts, which was great. And there was one podcast where you were in conversation with another really impressive and accomplished female entrepreneur. And you all got into a fascinating conversation about bias in the fundraising process. Mm-hmm. I wrote down something you said, you're talking about how to disarm investors, I think was the specific language you used, in a fundraising conversation to essentially change the way that they see you. And I appreciated this so much because I do think that so many of us in so many contexts make split split-second decisions about someone that just biases the rest of our consequential interactions with them. And so I want to flip to you the question that you asked your guest on that podcast, which is, how do you disarm folks in conversations?
I think we're seeing it.
I open my mouth.
We're completely disarmed.
Wow. So you just took my question and flipped it right back to me. Is that what you? And I see that. Wow. Well, let me start by when I was in that podcast and I was talking to the person, it's also being very honest. So with the teams that I lead, I talk about the culture of our company, and candor is one of them. Mm-hmm. And I say candor with kindness, compassion, and courage. Because it can be really, really hard to speak up and speak out and have that candor, especially when you're trying to disarm folks. But it's important to remember that candor is necessary. So one of the ways I do is I lead from that place, knowing I will use my voice. And there may be consequences that I don't really care to have, but I will still go forward and do that. And the reason I'm saying that is I'm going to share a story, and I think it's important because disarming is not about dividing. Disarming is about bringing together. And as we all know, not everyone is for you. And not everyone is for you if what they think is that in order for them to win, you have to lose. That it is binary. It is all or it is nothing. Sally, we talked about it, scarcity. There are so many folks that operate from a scarcity mentality. And when you operate from that place, there's never enough. There's never enough. You will never earn enough. You will never make enough. You will never raise enough. You will never have enough. If you operate instead from a place, and it's what I call, and we have it with one of the communities that we do, boosting. We have boost friends. If I ask you, do you have a best friend? Some of you all may raise your hands and say, yes, I got a best friend. Then I ask you, well, do you have a boost friend? Like, who's there to boost you? That's what some of these platforms, all of you all are doing. You're being boost friends to so many. So going into these conversations when I'm trying to disarm, I go into them thinking, I'm walking in this room and I'm here to boost you. You may not know that yet. This is all internal speak, by the way. Hey, I'm here to boost you. I get to that point eventually. But it is, so I go in thinking, how can I boost, how can I build, and how can I bridge? And what happens is I do it by also understanding that the person who may be on the other side of the table or in the room or at the table may actually be very, very suspicious, may be making those split-second decisions, and may be, if I think positively, unaware that that's what they're doing. So if they're unaware that that's what they're doing, and I'm going to boost them by giving them the benefit of the doubt, even though sometimes I'm like, oh yeah, you really think it's this? No, not today. But I give them the benefit of the doubt that really we can bridge. We can bridge, and if we can bridge, then we can get through the biases. I do it by literally trying to make sure folks understand I'm here to do something for you, not to get something from you. I'm here to help you. How can I be a resource? How can I help you get what it is that you want? And I'll give this story to wrap up this point because there's something I say, and it's that no one succeeds alone. No one. Even people you all hear, and I hate the term, self-made. I'm self-made, I'm self-made, I'm self-made. Come on now, really? No one is self-made individually doing the only thing because we all have folks that are with us. So I was at a meeting, and at this meeting there were some founders and fund managers that were raising around, and there was a door, so we're all here with women. Okay, and friends. And those who in their hearts love, care for, and support women too. So they're raising, and We've heard of the glass ceiling, yes. But have you all heard of the glass door? Probably not. I'm going to tell you about it. Because I sort of coined that term because it happened to me. And I see this door here, and it's actually glass, so it's appropriate right now. Walking in, and these are folks who reached out to us, to our family office. They were hoping that we would invest and become LPs. And by we, I'm talking about Jose and I. And Jose, I think you're here. Say hello. There you go. Essentially, we walk in, Jose walks in the door. We're there with some of the founders, fund managers. After he walks in the door, guess what this door was? Glass door. What did they do? It was a sliding door. Slid the door closed directly in front of my face. Yeah, your mouth, yes. If you all saw her, she did literally. So imagine that, you are there. So what did I do? Sally, there it is. Absolutely. I did that. And boosting, although in my mind, ooh-wee, slid the door open, walked into the room, stepped in, spoke up, spoke out, and I said, I'm pretty sure you want me in this room. Pretty sure you want me in this room. And to the point of talking about disarming, it's also important in the midst of this, because we can talk about the patriarchy as we know, because I have my thoughts there, but that's culture. That's a cultural construct. We can change that too and make it different, which is we know the stories I told earlier, the rights and privileges, if you will. If you're women trying to vote, you couldn't decide that you were going to vote. You had to have allies. You had to have people who were disarming other people for you. The same thing has to happen. In this instance, so I'm going to give Jose a shout out, because as I pulled that door back, and then he knows how I could be, but I didn't be that way that time. Now I'm getting really. But when I said, yeah, I'm pretty sure you want me in this room, he said, yeah, you all sort of messed up. You've got the investment committee here. It's an investment committee of two. It's Jose, I'm sorry, it's Jose, and it's me. So in an investment committee of two, where the vote is with both of us, he's got 50% of the vote, I got 50% of the vote, and you are closing the door in front, well that, I don't know, what was it? They wanted 15, 20 million? That's gonna be a hard no. So, and then we tell them why.
Yep.
We tell them why. That's how you disarm. You try to boost, you try to build, but you also have bridges. And bridges are folks that are there and also going to be advocates and allies. And it's hard work too, but you got to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. As we move into our last few minutes together, which I'm so sad about, I have so many more questions for these incredible women. I want to make sure I manage to take at least one or two questions from the incredible ones flowing in from the audience, and thank you. This question is simple and profound. I think it's one of the most important questions we could get from the audience. What piece of advice would you recommend to a woman who has never invested before? How should I start? Looking at you, Sally Krawcheck.
What a tee-up. I know. Well, look, it's why we build Ellevest. Yes. And that's why we have an offering that's there for your daughters when they invest their first dollar, through to financial planning. I think we've got the only comprehensive divorce package, financial planning divorce package or inheritance package. Someone there's getting a divorce. I heard that. Up to having a financial advisor and investing often with the investments made at the top level in other women, in women venture funds and femtech, et cetera, so that we're really paying it through. The important thing is to get started. As I said, gentlemen seem to get started before they have the information. We women wait until we feel like we know it all, which we never do. But the important thing for your daughters is from that first paycheck, putting 5% away, 10% away, 2% away, whatever she can, in order to get that compounding going. And when she does that, it will take that source of stress, money, the source of stress, and as the compounding makes it grow, turn it into an enormous source of strength. Because I will say, a little off topic, but one thing that's sort of running through this conversation is women are always being told that we need to be empowered. Again, the patriarchy tells us
We need to be empowered. We don't need to be empowered, we have power. We have power, whether it's $700 billion or tens of trillions of dollars. It's convincing ourselves to step into and use that power. And investing is a very key way to do that. So the answer is ellevest.com.
Yeah. Small plug.
No, and I would just say that I know it's a part of the way I live. If I'm buying a young woman a gift, she gets an investment account from Ellevest. And she can buy her own handbag later. Get her an investment
with
account.
The returns from
with the
her.
returns. Yeah.
I'm going to ask everyone to think about one quick-ish piece of advice that you can offer everyone in the audience, whether it's the person investing for the first time, the CEO of a multinational company, another investor, an allocator, an LP. We have so many incredible groups of folks represented in this room. What is your best advice on how to take action? While everyone's thinking that through, it's rare you have the privilege of getting a rhetorical question. I'm interpreting it as rhetorical. So I'm just going to read the question for everyone and our gracious hosts at Milken. When will we reach the point when we will have an all-female panel of top investors talking about women-led companies without having to acknowledge the novelty of it being an all-female panel talking about female-run companies?
Yeah.
So thank you, attendee 46, for your awesome rhetorical question. By way of, this is like our Oscars closing music, let's go down with your best piece of advice for everyone in the room. Tonya?
Oh, okay. So here's my best piece of advice. Invest in women. Like, I don't know what else we can say. Is that I just would also just say, like, let's stop talking about women as just wives, as just people who inherited wealth. Women are creating wealth. Women are making wealth. Women are distributing and allocating wealth. Let's step into our power. Let's invest in women, not because they are just women, because they are a good, investable opportunity for all of us. So if we want to make money, put the money where we know it's going to earn and it's going to grow. So that's what I would offer.
Here.
Yeah. Oh, and can I say one other thing?
Yeah.
Is be in rooms like this. Like, if you are in the room where you're the rock star, then you're in the wrong damn room, right? Like, so be in rooms where you know that there are lots of people who are rock stars, so that you can just iron sharpens iron is what I would also offer. So sorry, thank you, Erin.
No. Invest in women. And also ask questions and interrogate the people in the rooms that you sit in. I'm looking out, and I know there are a lot of you that sit on boards, that sit on investment committees, even in your own personal assets. Hopefully you're opening an Ellevest account if you haven't done that real time during this panel. And just ask what you own. Ask why these decisions are being made. Ask why there aren't more women investors, founders in the sphere of things that you can control. So both invest in women, but then ask the questions when you have the opportunity to see why it's not happening.
I'll add to that and say thank you all for that, because it's necessary, all of those. And I think we're all just going to keep building and building and building on each other's answers. I will say invest in women and also invest in you. Invest in you. And why that's so critical is at times there are women and others who are founders, fund managers, all sorts of things, and they still have this nagging doubt and belief that they're not good enough, the imposter syndrome, whoever it is that's on the shoulder, all of those things. So determine and understand what is the statement you are going to make to and for you. Make a statement. My statement for me is, and I wrote it, it's called the supercharged statement. You are supercharged. Don't doubt it. Just believe it. You have what it takes, so turn it up. Even if things seem tough, carry on. Tell yourself it's time to go. Then get up, get out, and go. Go to the panels, talk to the people, reach out. I'm not going to say the rest of it. You can find it online and all those other things. But figure out the statement you want to make for you. Lean into it, lead from that place, and keep doing it. Go out and do it.
Kwanzaa, you're an excellent boost friend.
Well, you all are boosting me, so.
I would add, we are all impact investors. Whether we know the impact we're making or not, everything we do with our money has an impact, however we spend it, however we invest it. I would also say that how we use our money reflects our values. We diversify when we invest by everything: fixed income, equities, global, U.S., risky, not risky. We should also diversify by gender, and that we should have our money managed by representation of gender. Women are 51% of the population. They should be managing 51% of your money for diversification reasons. Right?
Yeah.
Bring us home, Linnea.
And
they outperform, other than that.
yeah. So I'm just going to double down on Sally's advice, because Sally gave me that piece of advice, and I changed one of my accounts from an all-male-led team to a female advisor. So even people the most intended aren't thinking about this. Ask the question, who is managing your money? Make sure there are women on their team all the way up and down the line. If they're not, make a change.
Yes. Yep.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
You are something.